acting as our allies because we as a Jewish community are a small community. We require allies, and we are depending on our larger community to stand with us and stand on the side of good. And I'm calling upon my Jewish community to not have fear, to not feel as though we are helpless and can only rely on law enforcement and only rely on our city officials, but we too must stand up and be a strong, secure community, working with our allies, working with our community leaders, and working together to bring a more peaceful future to the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Zach Silo. I'm Deputy Mayor Communications for Mayor Bass. We're going to take questions from press. Right here, Kana.
Rabbi Yossi, you were there yesterday, correct, Mr. Mecca? Can you tell us from your point of view, you were there from the beginning, what happened?
There was a coordinated attack against the Jewish community by people who had planned and prepared and dressed a certain way and brought certain equipment so that they can try to intimidate and attack the community.
How long did it go? What was the police response? What was
Law enforcement worked in advance proactively to prepare for this, and the people who planned the attack knew their tactics or prepared for their tactics and sent wave after wave of instigators, several of them paid, specifically to harm a Jewish community, and it went on for way too long.
Question right here, I think.
This is for the chief. If you could talk about when LAPD first was made aware of this protest and the planning, and what strategies you might have employed upon learning.
So LAPD was made aware of it, I believe, last Thursday. We did gather information as much as we could that was out there through our sources, as well as working with the community-based public safety organizations to share information and to deploy appropriately for what we knew at the time. Again, the strategy or tactics that we saw yesterday were a little different than what we had seen previously, meaning the way these protesters arrived in waves was something different. But we did call in resources. We separated the groups, and then eventually the groups dispersed. So there was some, obviously, batteries or criminal behavior in between.
There's a question from Fox in the back.
So what now? I mean, as people are listening to what can be done, because these things are probably going to continue, what can you tell people about your tactics and what you plan to do to deal with it?
Well, first thing is, I'm not going to talk publicly about all of our tactics, but I will say that we are committed to improving our response, having a more informed response to the extent that we can, and working with our partners even more closely than because we have great relationships. We continue to work with this community, but we're going to enhance that communications, enhance that dialogue, so we can have more favorable outcomes of these incidents.
And if folks could say their name and outlet too, right here in the group.
Yeah, question for Mayor Bass, Ari Rahimian from Westside Current. I'd like to ask the same question to you as our elected officials. What plans do you have to keep our community, the Jewish community, safe going forward?
Well, let me just reiterate it. There were 4 points that we agreed to in a couple of the meetings that we had today. The first one is I'll be working with Councilwoman Yarsovsky. We are going to immediately convene leaders of the houses of worship and cultural centers to discuss how to protect sacred spaces, to establish safety zones, share ideas, practices, and strategies to keep people safe. LAPD is going to enhance their partnership. Chief Choi just made references to that, to not just responding, but to proactively plan for protests in the future. And most importantly, we're going to be working with Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel and also members of Congress, as Congresswoman Kamala Dove said, to make sure that our houses of worship have the resources they need to protect themselves. And in addition, and in anticipation that resources will be coming, Councilwoman Yarsowski tomorrow will introduce a motion to expedite the resources even before they might come from Sacramento or Washington, D.C. And then there are several points of clarity that we're going to seek from the city attorney, and one, basically clarity around what are the parameters with protests in terms of when permits are needed, whether or not people should be masked, and establishing clear lines of demarcation between what is legal and what is not. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from press? Thank you so much, everybody.